Welcome to the Krueg Show, everybody. Larry Krueger, Ryan Smith, Dan Coach Emilio likely to join us as well tonight. We're going to do a little combo. We'll start with the Niners, and then we'll flip over and do another live stream on the Giants. Giants up 4-2 in the bottom of the eighth against the Cubbies. But hope everybody had a phenomenal Thursday. Ryan and I were down in Santa Clara today for 49er camp. And Ryan, what'd you think? What'd you think of day 2 of training camp live from Santa Clara?
Well, this was just my second day at camp outside of one day when I was an intern running equipment over that was left by Murph and Mac. So this was kind of like my first full day of camp, I feel like. Even though yesterday was a full day of camp, it was a little bit like syllabus day in college. Like if you wanted to, you don't have to show up. You could probably just read the syllabus. But yeah, so today, I would have to say, unfortunately, the number one thing that people are probably going to be talking about is Trey had a little bit of a rough day. I'm not overly concerned about it. But yeah, he just had a little bit of a rough day. He threw some picks and some bad passes, and he looked a little.
No Kittle, no Debo, no O-line, no Trent Williams again.
Williams, yeah, exactly. So I'm not tripping on it. I mean, remember last year it was like Jimmy G, throwing 3-4 picks, and it's practice. We're not going to get too high or too low until at least we see some preseason games at least.
Corbin Smith weighs in. He says, "Let's go, Krug. Been loving your work from Brisbane, Australia.
Let's go.
Big down under."
Yeah,
Corbin.
Wisnowski on the pod.
Thanks for watching, mate. Is that what? Thanks for watching, or thanks for tuning in, mate. How's that?
Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
There we go. Niner Gang 2009. You're the man, Krug. Love the show. What do you think about Trey Sermon? How's he looking? What did you think of Sermon today? I thought he looked pretty good in day 1. He's definitely looks a little leaner. The Niners are stacked at running back, and to me, Ty Davis Price is the guy you got to talk about there. But I like Sermon. I like Sermon as well, and I think he's going to be much better in year 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. I mean, the thing is, like, Mostert looks good. I expected him to look good. Jeff Wilson looks like Jeff Wilson. Looks like just, always just really good. Hasty, small, but also really good. Sermon, I felt like I wasn't catching a ton of Sermon today as opposed to yesterday. But you hit it on the head. I thought that Ty Davis Price looked like he was whatever I was expecting. That's not what it was. Like, he looked like he had an extra gear and burst and a motor. Doing all that.
Yeah, if they're Niner fans, if there's one element of the first couple days of practice that really jump out, it's the dynamic nature of Ty Davis Price. He's a big, fast running back who runs low, runs with some body lean, he's got good vision. He's pretty patient, but he's got a lot of power, but he's got, you look at a 220-pound back and you think power back between the tackles, but then if he can get to that second level, he can be gone. I mean, he's got that explosive capability at 220 pounds. And, I think as I said, I think they got a can full of backs, like 5 or 6 backs that I really like. But I think I like Ty Davis Price the most, more than Mitchell, more than Sermon, more than Jeff Wilson, more than Hasty. Ty Davis Price has some dynamic elements to his game, and he might be the find of the draft right there.
I also was not I wasn't really expecting him to have Kyle had, I saw him run a few routes and they were crisp, and every ball that was thrown, I think he had 2 catches or something like that, but he just immediately turned both upfield. I don't know. I thought he just looked like it's like we have all these different types of running backs, and I just feel like, I don't know where the Venn diagram is, but he's got like a little bit of everybody. Like, he's got a little Jeff Wilson, he's got a little Mitchell, He's a little Mitchell,
he's a little Wilson, he's a little Coach Emilio, he's a little bit of every. Look who's here, chewing away on the bottom of the screen. Dan Coach Emilio. A little dark in the background tonight, Danny.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even prepared. I got to flip the lights on. Yeah.
I mean, let's get the studio going. And what are we chomping on there?
Polish dog.
What? Polish
dog. Yeah.
Look at you bringing Oracle Park to the desert.
Wait. Okay, breaking news. Wait, Kapler got fired up and almost got tossed?
Oh, wait, I just saw that. Wait a minute. Let me rewind that.
There it is.
Play by.
Look at Gabe showing some fire.
Oh, let's go. I actually think he listens to the Krueg Show.
Gabe, you know, the old lesson is don't get mad in a game your team loses. Wait till your team wins. Well, your team's got to win. So if they're up 4-2, this is a perfect spot for him he'll probably really unload right here on the ump. Bart just struck out. They're going to Dalval for the final 3 outs, trying to preserve a 4-2 lead. Contreras, Happ, and Suzuki coming up. Nick J. Kapler just got fired up. Wow, almost got tossed. What did
he come out and say? What was that call?
You know that it's a big deal. It's so rare that it interrupted our Niner stream. Our Niner camp stream just to say that he did something that most managers do once every 4 days.
Yeah, if they blow this in the night, from the dugout, it's gonna be bad. They just had first and third, nobody out.
All right, guys. Len wants us to talk Niner.
Struck them all out.
We'll get to the Giants. Giants. Let's talk Niners. It's funny. We've got this one, Niner Gang 2009. I love when I'm hearing about TDP. He says our running back room though. And then he's got the big eyes. The running back room is stacked, and let's be honest, there's 2 positions on this team that you really cannot be deep enough. They've shown last year that, 15, 16, 17 D linemen, not enough. 4 or 5 really good running backs, not enough. You can never be deep enough when you're Shanahan and they lean on that run game. You can never have enough backs. You can never have enough D linemen. And not surprisingly, they showed up in camp really deep in both spots.
Yeah, so, Larry, you think they'll probably carry 4 running backs and one on
I would say 5 or 6.
Because Juszczyk. I mean, I'm just talking about actual running backs, not counting Juszczyk.
Okay, so I think running back wise, you've got Mitchell and TDP and Sermon and Hasty and Mason and Wilson. So you got 6. You got 6 running backs. I think they'll wind up keeping all those guys somehow. There'll be some injury, right? One of them will get hurt. So I think it'll be 6 total with Juszczyk. One of those 5 guys that I just named on the running back side will probably find their way to PUP or some kind of injured list. Somebody will get hurt in preseason. But
what do you see as the 4 guys barring if there's no injuries? Which 4 running backs besides Juszczyk? I was thinking, Wilson and Mitchell, and
they're all going to make it.
And
they're all going to make it.
And TDP. I don't know. Do you think Hasty will?
Yeah, he'll make it.
You got TDP.
I think they all make it. I think the only way they don't all make it is if Mason, the undrafted rookie out of Georgia Tech, doesn't look all that good. He could get cut. But I think everybody else is going to wind up making it either somewhere or another.
Matthew Mears.
I think they could go with an extra running back. Yeah.
Matthew Mears says, "Why is TDP all of a sudden crowned the best RB after 2 practices with no pads? What's going on?" I'm really not. I mean, I think Mitchell's the guy, especially to start the season. But if you're looking for, you want to talk about that guy that think about Denver last year with Javonte Williams. Granted, higher caliber of player. Or higher caliber of prospect and higher draft pick. But, it started with Melvin Gordon, and there was kind of an expectation that, if Javonte kept, showing flashes and doing what, learning all this stuff, all of a sudden he had a bigger role towards the end of the year. I think the same thing with TDP. And, but I think Mostert looks great. And also Ty Davis Price, he was running against 2s and 3s. So.
And Mitchell, the one thing about Mitchell, Mitchell definitely looked like he's put on some weight this year to kind of absorb some of the hits. But, what does that do to his overall speed and escapability? He looks a little stiff at this weight. He looks a little too heavy, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see. They're all good backs. I really believe that, including Jordan Mason, the rookie from Georgia Tech. I expect him to shine this summer too.
He looked
and
good.
Jeff Wilson looks tremendous.
Yeah. Okay. He's asking how many deep shots a game we'll see with Trey. I'll just speak to how many deep shots I saw today in training camp. I have to say, although Trey, struggled a little bit, I thought that his deep, he had like 2 deep to intermediate or intermediate to deep shots. And I thought both were great throws. And honestly, one of them, Danny Gray, he got a step or two on Ward. On Charvarius Ward, I guess I got to be specific. Charvarius Ward. And Ward he talk about a guy that impressed. He might have been the best player on the field today. Like outside of Nick Bosa, I thought he might have been the best player out there. He
maybe the first 2 days, Mosley dominated day 1, Charvarius dominated day 2. I mean, it's really good to see the 49ers corners kind of, I kind of, after watching Hufanga, looking at Jimmy Ward, seeing the depth at corner, some of the young guys, I really think that we're going to see the defense where the secondary improves. Now, the front 7 may take a step back if certain guys don't play, but I think you're looking at definitely improved secondary with Charvarius Ward. Charvarius has got a real swagger to him. They're going to play more man coverage because he can play man coverage. And he's a big, he's a pressed man corner who will challenge you at the line. And I think it's an element they haven't had. So I think that's really where they most improved so far this year. I would say probably corner because of Ward and special teams.
Speaking of Charvarius Ward, he just posted something on Twitter 56 minutes ago, says, continuing to level up and be great. I really don't see nobody but myself.
Different tweet, but on the same subject. I retweeted this yesterday. This is what Richard Sherman said. Before this season is over, there will be a lot of chatter about this 49ers secondary being amongst the best in football. Mark it down.
Charvarius and Emmanuel Mosley are a problem.
Jimmy Ward has been playing at Pro Bowl level for years, and like Larry's been saying, look for Hufanga to shine.
Yeah, they're thin at safety, and there's talk that they may trade for Jesse Bates from the Bengals. But we'll see. Tarvarius Moore is in this camp. They've got George Odom in this camp. Leon O'Neal. There's some young players at safety, but to me, the depth at safety is a little bit of a concern. But they've got great depth at corner, and Samuel Womack looks like a guy who might be able to plug and play at nickelback, which would be a phenomenal find if that's indeed the case. So, yeah, I like what I'm seeing from the young Niner secondary, kind of the remade Niner secondary.
Yeah, and then like, what would be your like main concerns? Like, obviously, it's all going to go, or it's all going to we're only going to make it far in the playoffs if Trey is awesome. But what would be your biggest concerns like so far? Just kind of look at, because we don't, it's not like we know everything from 2 days of camp, but just.
My biggest concern is clearly the offensive line. It's the offensive line. There's so much uncertainty there. Trent Williams hasn't been there. Interesting, Spencer Burford from University of Texas at San Antonio, who, they had a tremendous run blocking offensive line. He blocked this year for Sincere McCormick. And he looked good in the minicamp. Well, he's been the starter at right guard the last couple of days. And Burford's a talent. He's got long arms. He's versatile. He can play both guards, both tackle spots. And he's got an NFL body. And he's coming off a line where they had a lot of success opening holes in the run game. So that would be a great find if Burford could plug and play at right guard. That would allow them to, instead of handing the center spot to Jake Brendel, who's largely an unproven player, they could kind of commit Brunskill and Brendel to center. And then, the big question is Aaron Banks too. So I think left guard, center, and right guard are all big question spots, even right tackle because of the health of McGlinchey. Yeah. The O-line, I think, is the biggest question by far.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and it's hard to say that the any part of the defensive line of the 49ers could be an issue, but Kinlaw, I think Kinlaw's health is going to be an ongoing storyline, and as well as maybe, they did lose. I mean, DJ Jones was a massive loss for them. And then, Arden Key, and I don't know. Obviously, I think that they're going to more than make up for it, with the secondary. So it's ultimately not going to be a problem. But maybe that's something to look at too.
Well, the D line is on paper pretty stacked for sure, but somebody opposite Bosa has got to round out that defensive end spot, whether it be Ebukam, Drake Jackson, Kamoko Toure, Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis, Alex Barrett. They got a bunch of guys vying for it, and then it's an interesting line. I think the defense in the middle, if the 49ers get a lead and they're leading in the second half of games, I think their D-line could come at you in waves. Why? Because look at what they got. Hurst is a pass rusher. Hyder's an interior rusher. Givens has got a lot of pass rush inside. Kemdiche, I think, can rush the passer a little bit. So they've got some interior rushers. Where they're going to struggle is if Armstead and Kinlaw struggle against the run, and you got teams running the ball in the fourth quarter trying to put the game away. As we said, Hyder and Hurst and Givens, and these guys, a lot of them are more pass rushers than run stuffers. If Kinlaw doesn't stop the run or it goes down, that could be a spot where they struggle to anchor inside against the run, and that's a big one because that's been a strength the last few years.
Yeah, and I was saying last night with Rye, I like Kinlaw if he stays healthy. I don't think he necessarily sacks the quarterback much, but I think he gets in, disrupts the quarterback by flushing him out of the pocket, which could really be great for their defense with their linebackers pursuing, with their speed, and then the coverage corners this year. I think Kinlaw is going to be a really key to that defense, because if he plays anything like his tape in college, look out.
Yeah, the only thing about Kinlaw is that it's a lot about promise, and we got to see promise fulfilled. It's one thing to have promise. Promise is nice. It's time for him to deliver.
Yeah,
it's time for him to play. It's not. He's not going to get away with promise anymore. He's going to have to be out there, snap after snap, doing the job, down after down. That's the thing about Kinlaw. He didn't participate in the 11-on-11 team drills yesterday. I missed 11-on-11 team drills today. Was Kinlaw participating in the 11-on-11?
He was just doing stretching and lunges, and I'll get, he was into it though. He was fired up on the sideline, but no, it seems like he's kind of going through his own pace, which, it's understandable. With all he's gone through. You know what? I've got some audio of D'Amico Ryans on Drake Jackson, because Drake Jackson,
that's here.
Another thing.
Breaking news, just real quick. The 7-game losing streak is over.
Oh, boo. Does that mean you lost your bet?
Okay. Yeah.
This is D'Amico on Drake Jackson. And I'll preface it by saying, Drake Jackson looks raw, and, he was not, I didn't see him out there with the ones one time. So, I think he's got some work to do for sure.
The right direction for us.
You guys were excited about Drake Jackson in the spring. Have you seen that carry over now that you can see him in team drills?
And still, this is the first time that we're actually going through these team drills, where these guys can understand how we practice. So rookie like Drake, he's coming along. He has a lot of work that he has to put in to get where we need him to be. But he's coming along. He's doing a good job, doing everything we asked him. So happy with where he is now. And then, again, I'm excited to see where he'll grow as we continue to go. We put the pads on. That's where you can see D linemen truly show up when the pads come on.
As you're evaluating.
So, I took that as kind of a nice way of saying, he's got some work, and
well, it's almost kind of like he's covered both ways. It's hard to read that. He's coming along means he ain't there yet, and it also means that it's hard to evaluate defensive players, in non-live situations. It's you have to have a level of desire and want to to pursue, a running back across the field. And sometimes you don't find out about, how a player plays as far as his desperation. Some guys want to get to, some guys don't care about getting to the football, believe it or not. Some guys absolutely want to get to the football. Other guys are obsessed with getting to the football. What's Drake Jackson? We don't know yet. I think we're going to find out. And you got to see all that. And it's you can see it under practices, but it doesn't really show itself until it might show itself in like maybe open practices against the Vikings, when that happens later this summer. But most likely you're going to see that in a game. And only a game. So, I think that's tempered optimism. Tempered optimism is what I would term that.
Okay. And you know what? There's people in the chat talking about like a lot of, people are hating on Trey after today, I guess. All Jimmy stands full of land. I don't think it's quite that. But
what do you make of it? He's not operating behind his top offensive line. That's a big part of it. The 49ers also have a really good defense. It's possible the defense is ahead of the offense. But offensive football is about synchronicity, and it's about working together, and it takes time to build that. Defense of football is about energy and accountability, and it doesn't take quite as long to coordinate. So oftentimes early in training camp, the defense is ahead of the offense for multiple reasons. They know the offense like the back of their hand, so they know the tendencies of the play caller and the offense, and they're also, it's a read and react, kind of a situation, as opposed to offensive football. It's about learning the play on a really high level and knowing everything there is to know about that play. And it's about efficiency, and it's about coordination, and it takes more time to come together. And that's why you'll see teams kind of go vanilla early in the year. By late in the year, they're doing intricate things because they've had far more practice time to work on those things. So if the Niners defense ran over the Niner offense early in camp, to me, that's about par for the course. That's about what I would expect.
Yeah. And the analogy I would give, because I don't want to come off like I'm bashing Trey or anything. I don't think he played well. But I also don't think it's nothing. But I think it's something he just has to keep getting reps, because even watching someone like Brock Purdy, he's running the Jimmy G offense where it's all time rhythm, pass game. The second he snaps the ball, he knows he has his one quick read, and it's out quick every time. He doesn't have even the option to throw a deep ball. The one deep ball he threw was, there was like 3 Niners that could have easily picked it, and they were sitting there with a cup of coffee, sitting down, waiting, and so he doesn't have that. He doesn't have the option to scramble. So Jimmy was great at getting the ball out quick and doing that whole thing. With Trey, it's almost like, and I think the younger generation out there may relate to me a little bit here. Okay, for example, I just got MLB The Show, the video game. So 7 years ago was the last time I played an MLB video game. There was like 2 buttons. It was like B for power, A for contact. That's all you had to worry about. You clicked a letter that corresponded to the pitch, and it went right where you wanted it to. Now, it's like they give you all these options to use a stick and learn all these extra combinations and buttons, and it's all just so much more intricate. And it's like, if I want to be a great player at this video game, I have to learn all of that stuff. But ultimately, I think that's Trey. Trey has the option to go deep. He has the option to, scramble around. He's got so much talent just oozing out of him. And it's just going to look a little different. He doesn't look like he's as, quick with everything, because he has so many more things things it seems like he's still juggling almost.
Well, and also, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's for the quarterback to scramble in a practice setting, it feels very individual. Yeah. And so it doesn't feel like a win for the quarterback. He's trying to win in practice with his arm. So he's probably less likely to take those lanes. But in the game, if you give him a lane, he's going to take it and get the first down and move on to the next play. But in practice, he may not take it. He may still want to keep his eyes downfield, trying to look for that receiver. So there's some, there's things that you see in practice that don't necessarily mock up a typical NFL game. MF donates $4.99. His thoughts on Chris Kocurek getting the most out of Hyder, Givens, Menahue, and Drake Jackson. Well, I mean, the one thing about Kocurek is he's kind of proven he can get it out of you. If you have the requisite talent, he's got the fire to drive you hard. I mean, he pushes his guys incredibly hard. The guy that I'm so eager to see with Kocurek this year is Robert Nkemdiche, because Nkemdiche is an enormous talent, and he's been an enormous talent going back to Ole Miss. He can run like a linebacker. He moves like a linebacker. He's 295 pounds. So he's got unbelievable talent. It's always been about motor and injuries and attitude and focus and things like that. Now you take Nkemdiche, put him in a super competitive defensive line room with one of the NFL's best defensive line coaches who drives his guys maniacally hard. And I think Nkemdiche, I'm really eager to see if Kocurek can get it out of Nkemdiche, because if he can, they've got something there, because Nkemdiche is a major talent.
He was definitely on him today.
Was he? Oh, I bet.
Before you got a question, Dan, that's another thing I've really enjoyed is seeing Kocurek work in real life. It's like watching a lion tamer. Like he's just on those dudes, and it is. I mean, it makes sense because a lot of those type of guys are either way crazy, aggressive, kind of little nuts, like an Ndamukong Suh or type, or you got your guys who kind of that need to be motivated, and maybe their conditioning isn't always up.
I love his
what should we do? We have people in. Sorry, Danny, hold on a second. We're in two chat. Carlo P says I'm in two chats at once. So we invited everybody to our Niner chat. We're going to do a 40, a Giants chat.
I had that scheduled for 10:15.
You got 10:15?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go. So if you're in the Giants chat, know that we're about 15, 20 minutes away from jumping over to the Giants chat. And we'll continue to talk Giants and Niners over there. So everybody, we've got over 100 people who just stopped by this chat. When we shut this down, let's say in 20 minutes or so, join us at the Giants chat, because we'll continue talking Niners and Giants over there as well. Danny, go ahead. I'm sorry. I rudely interrupted you.
No worries. No worries. I was just saying with Kocurek, I love watching his drills when they compete, when they have, who's going to win the battle, who gets off the ball the quickest or goes around the cones the fastest. It brings a lot of energy and competition. And it brings a lot of camaraderie together as a team. The other thing I was going to mention about Trey, that people are on him, he is missing his 2 tackles. I mean, McGlinchey and Williams aren't even in there. So it's like,
Kocurek is back to Kocurek for 1 second, though. He is such an incredible energy force, and D-line coaches are just notorious for firing guys up.
Oh yeah.
Did I ever tell you tell you guys the shit story? The shit story.
No.
Okay, so I'm coaching in the Canadian Football League with the late, great Bill Urbanek, and I just lost Billy just weeks ago now, so it's kind of still fresh. He's one of my lifelong friends, and he's one of the great defensive line coaches. And so we're at lunch, and we're about a week into training camp, and he's like, Larry, we ain't getting it out of him. And then so he's like, so what's that?
Was he from Louisiana?
No, but he just had this voice. He's like, Larry, and he's like, he called me, fuck you, Larry, fuck you, Larry. Go get me some hot sauce and let's talk about our defensive line.
Well, you say that because he sounds like the former LSU coach.
Yeah.
So Billy's like, he goes, I think the boys need the shit story. And I'm like, oh my God, coach, I don't even know the shit story. He's like, you don't know the shit story? He's like, I'm going to tell it to you over lunch. And I'm like, great. So he starts telling me this shit story. And I go, give me the genesis of the shit story. He's like, it's all about making them understand that we're all in this together. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, so now this is the story. And now he goes, gentlemen, we ain't getting it out of you. And guess what? We gonna get it out of you. So it's like, so you guys aren't bringing it. So I'm gonna tell you a little story to maybe motivate y'all. And this is so classic. And so now you got a room full of D linemen looking at Urbanic. And Urbanic's, he goes, let me tell you this story. There was a squirrel, okay? He's walking in the forest, all right? You looking at me? There's a squirrel, and he's walking in the forest. And along comes a bear, and that bear shits all over that squirrel. And that squirrel is buried in shit. And so all these guys are starting to laugh, right? And he's like, but you know what? He was buried in shit, but he wasn't dead. He was warm and he was comfortable. But then the winter came and he probably would have died, but he was covered in all that shit. So guess what, fellas? He lived through the winter. And now the spring came and that snow started to melt, but that squirrel was still covered in shit. And these D linemen eyes are this big, and he goes, and then along came a coyote, and that coyote saw that squirrel was digging himself out of all that shit, and that coyote ate that squirrel. That's right. What's the moral of the story, gentlemen? And then they're all sitting there like, what? Bears, coyotes, squirrels? I don't know. He goes, Larry, what's the moral of the story? And I'm like, Coach, you just told me the story, but I don't even know. So I'm laughing. They're all laughing. And basically he turns to these guys and they're sitting back, kind of in their chairs. And he goes, let me tell you the moral of that story, gentlemen. Those who shit on you in life aren't necessarily your enemies. And those who take shit off your back aren't necessarily your friends. So if you're warm and you're comfortable, you sit there and shut the fuck up and listen to what I'm teaching you. And the whole room just erupted into laughter and cheers, and everyone's like, yes. But it was the moral of the story is basically just because somebody buries you in crap doesn't mean that they hate you. In other words, he is the guy. He's like, in this equation, I'm burying you in crap, but I love you boys, and I want you all to succeed. And just because there's somebody's going to take that crap off your back doesn't mean they're your friend. And recognize that. Oh my God.
Now I know why Tim Ryan can't leave the game. He's like, it's like, how once you've been through that kind of thing, he just can't.
Oh my God. I just sat there and I'm just like, and seriously, later that year, guys are, Coach, can you tell us the shit story again? He's like, I mean, it was epic, but it just goes to show that when you have a room full of professionals, you know what? Motivation is the name of the game, and you got to be able to connect. You got to be able to relate. You got to be able to yell at a guy, but have him understand that the opposite of love is not hate; it's indifference. So if I'm yelling at you, it's because I love you as a player. I want you to get better. I want you to fulfill your potential. I want to help you make money for your family. I'm about you and making you better. And just because I'm in your ear and on your ass and yelling at you and correcting you, you and MFing you left and right. Don't read that as I don't like you. Read that as I care about you. I care about us, and we're trying to get better here. And just because somebody, takes something off your plate doesn't mean that they're all about you. They may not be about you just because, the path of least resistance is not always necessarily Shangri-La. So that story made me laugh so hard. And so anyway, there you go. When I see Coach Sherrick, I think of Urbanic because Urbanic was that fired up. MF says donates $4.99. How is McKivitz, Brendel, and Burford look? I thought McKivitz looked serviceable week 18 against the Rams. Maybe should have started the NFC Championship. According to Trent Williams, MF, he should have. Trent Williams told us in minicamp that he thought that McKivitz at full effectiveness was better than he was at what, ever he was, 40%, 50%. But the guy who's really looked good is Burford. Huh? I mean, the fact that Burford, a rookie, is running with the ones at right guard tells you they like what they're seeing. You can listen to what someone tells you, or you can follow their actions. And a lot of times in sports, it's, the coaches won't say anything. They'll just, their depth chart, they'll speak through their camp depth chart. And we're being told through the Niner depth chart that they like Burford quite a bit.
That's absolutely right. Because I'm especially me, like Larry, obviously, Larry's a whole different animal. But for me, I don't know what I'm watching when I'm looking at offensive linemen. And I'm like, I'm trying to look at everybody at once because I can't film it. And, I'm basically just looking who's out there running with the ones. And Burford was out there the entire day. He was running with the ones. So
what's happening with Banks?
Banks was out there too. Banks
with
was
the ones.
Yeah, he's the starter right now going into camp at left guard. They're trying to plug and play him.
So who's taking
Alex Mack?
No,
Dan Coach Amelia
Williams. Who's taking
Trent Williams?
Trent Williams' position right now? Is it McKivitz?
It was Moore. Moore was
Jalen Moore at left tackle. Jalen Moore played for much of the preseason last year for Trent Williams. So the one thing about the Niner O-line, last year they were thin and they had no quality replacements. That's why they're signing Tom Compton off the street. This year they're pretty thin. There's a lot of unknowns, but there's some real promising young talent on the field. And there's 3 or 4 guys there that all could emerge as real nice prospects as the preseason evolves.
I'm kind of anxious to see what when they put the pads on the kid they drafted from Fordham, the guard tackle
Nick Zakel.
Yeah, I want to see it. I know he's got a mean streak from his college film. I wonder if he could take that to the defensive line and throw some guys around. That will be interesting to see, because if he plays with the toughness and meanness and has the footwork that can, I know he needs work in that, but if he could show that toughness, he could push McGlinchey if McGlinchey's not healthy, right? I mean.
Well, it's interesting. Glass half full guy donates $1.99. He says, "What's the starting O-line?" It's Trent Williams. We know that. Everything else, I would say it's Trent Williams, Aaron Banks. I think Daniel Brunskill probably beats out Brendel. I think Burford probably winds up being the starter at right guard, and McGlinchey at right tackle. And if McGlinchey can't go at right tackle, I think you'll probably see Jalen Moore. That would be my guess. But there's also injuries, and there's 4 preseason games, and we're going to see with the bullets flying for real how these guys stand up under pressure. So, but that's how I would see it. I mean, what do you think, Ryan?
Will School make the team?
School's an interesting one because he was hurt all of last year. He probably will make the team, Danny, as their third tackle. I would say Justin School right now is the inside track at the third tackle spot. Okay. Ryan, what do you think of the O-line, Ryan? You saw him the last couple of days.
I'm pretty much right there with you, except for I'm sort of like, where is McKivitz going to carve out a spot for himself? I guess is maybe a question. I just don't know
Yeah.
where. I mean,
Kivitz is so nice because he's a young veteran who's very reliable. He's tough. He's smart. He knows the offense. He can plug and play almost in any spot, and that gives them great versatility. I would say he's for sure going to make the team because of his versatility, but you know what? I don't know if he starts. He was a gold helmet designation in the draft when he came out a couple of years ago. So what that means is that the 49ers scouting department put a gold helmet designation on the prospects in the draft that they love the most. So they collectively liked Colton McKivitz the most among several of the draft prospects that year. So they like him. They like him a lot.
What UFAs do you think might make the team?
What position? Any position?
Yeah, any position. I mean, they always
always
get one UFA guy that not FA, just undrafted.
UDF.
Yeah, I guess there'd be free agents if they don't get drafted. But what undrafted player you think that signed? I mean, do you like their safety, the guy they got, or Donovan West, the center? I mean, they need a center. Is he got a decent shot at making it, or is he a?
I mean, there's a. Well, go ahead, Ryan. Well, who are you going to say?
I just like Poe just because of that story you told me, Larry, about Poe riding on Trent Williams' jet. Like, how often does that happen where a legendary Hall of Famer just takes an undrafted dude out under his wing?
Yeah, I mean, I like Tay Martin from the wide receiver from Oak State. Yeah, he's wearing 83 in this camp. He started at Wazoo. He transferred once the pandemic hit because he was afraid that the Pac-12 was going to shut it down. So he transferred to Oak State, but he was good in the Pac-12. He was good in the Big 12, and two different offenses. I thought at the end of the year, Tay Martin was one of the best collegiate receivers in the entire country. You put him up against anybody. I mean, I saw him against whoever it was, Baylor, I think in the Big 12 championship game. He was good in that game. He had less than 100 yards, but he had a couple touchdowns. Then he went off for like 10 catches and 110 yards and 3 touchdowns against Notre Dame in the Fiesta. So Tay Martin, I mean, is got great quickness, great hands, great ball skills.
He'll have to show himself in the preseason games because right now they've got him.
Oh yeah, they're stacked there. Yeah, but the nice thing is he's got great ball skills. So, you got to be able to catch the rock when Trey's humming it in there. I like him. I like Jordan Mason, the running back from Georgia Tech, a ton as an undrafted guy.
With with what Dan just said, I really like Jordan Mason looks great out there. It's just like, God, can we really carry that many unless, maybe
he's pretty quick. He's 227 pounds. He's got contact balance. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He was very productive in college. Jordan Mason's a ball player. They also have some really good defensive players in their back seven that are undrafted guys. Marcelino McCrary Ball is an undersized linebacker. He wears number 40. He's a weak side backer, about 215 pounds. Sagun Alubi runs 4.48. San Diego State linebacker with, futuristic type speed. I really like him. Jeremiah Gemmel, they called him the general at North Carolina. Very productive guy. 49ers, I think, gave him like a $30,000 guarantee to sign as an undrafted guy. And then they've got some undrafted guys in the secondary. Quantrez Knight at UCLA, Taylor Hawkins, who played the corner at San Diego State, trying to transition to safety in the NFL in this camp. Leon O'Neal from A&M.
Oh yeah, the safety.
Those are the guys to me. I mean, there's about, I just gave you about a half dozen there, but those are the undrafted guys that I think, the Niners have done a spectacular job after the draft finding the undrafted guys. I mean, Jeff Wilson, undrafted. Raheem Mostert, undrafted. Azeez Al-Shaair, undrafted. Kevin Givens, undrafted. I mean, you can go right up and down. The tight end Dwelly, undrafted. I mean, their eye for the undrafted player that they think can make the roster, it's uncanny the success they've had. They've had more success with undrafted guys than they have in the first 2 days of the draft.
And even some of their late draft guys. I mean, Kittle, 5th round. What was Juwan Jennings, 7th round pick?
6th or 7th. DJ Jones was a 6th round pick. Yeah, Danny, you're absolutely right. MF donates $4.99. He says, Brunskill playing center. I love it. Go Aztecs. Yeah, I mean, Brunskill is interesting because, I think they wanted to go with Jake Brendel. But Jake Brendel doesn't have a lot of game experience. And, Brunskill, I like the idea of having Brendel and Brunskill battle it out for center and then going at the guard spot with a little bit bigger of a talent than Brunskill. So I think that's their best foot forward. I was hoping that would be the case, but somebody had to show them, show that they had talent in minicamp, and it looks like it's Burford.
Yeah, no.
What do you see as the backup tight end? Because I see, isn't Charlie Warner probably on the PUP, isn't he? Or he's not available?
Who's that?
Charlie Warner? He's not available, right?
Warner is a try-hard blocker type, and I think he has not practiced the first couple days.
But I thought I heard they say he was on the PUP the other day, or maybe. But
I think he's on the NFI. I think he's on the NFI list.
Okay,
the non-football injury list.
Does Jordan Matthews have a shot as a?
He absolutely has a shot.
I know he couldn't really. Jordan
Matthews is a
receiver,
sleeper,
but as a tight end, that might be a great position for him.
Yeah,
if he can block.
Larry, I was looking at him today because, we were talking about it'd be nice to get him on a scale. Just, hey, step on my iPhone scale. I want to see how much you're weighing. He's got to be 240. I'm 240.
They're listing him at 236. They list him at 6'3", 236. Maybe, he's all muscle though, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
He's a little like, if you watched him now, you'd say, man, he looks like almost like a weightlifter. He's like top heavy, right? He's carrying a lot of weight in his upper body compared. He was much more linear as a receiver at Vanderbilt. Now he's carrying a lot of weight in his upper body, but it's like he's like two players. He's like upper body tight end, lower body wide receiver. But the nice thing is he's got ability down to make plays down the field. And now as a tight end, you can isolate him potentially on a linebacker. Now, if Jordan Matthews is trying to get open against a corner, he's going to struggle. But if you can get him isolated on a linebacker, he's got a major speed advantage. So I like Matthews' ability.
Move him in the tight end position. Sometimes he could be a little more, in the slot.
I'd like to get Jerry Rice on and talk to him because I think he's Jerry's nephew.
Interesting.
I did not know that.
Jordan Matthews is Jerry's nephew.
And he's not that old. He's only 30. He seems like he's been around forever, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it doesn't, it takes a while sometimes to transition from one position to another. Just because you discover that you're too slow to escape and gain separation as a receiver doesn't mean just automatically you can play tight end. If you're going to play tight end in the NFL, you got to block some pretty bad boys up front who go 260, 270, and they're pretty nasty. So it's not like most wide receivers are just going to get balled up and thrown to the ground by most defensive ends. So it's a little bit of a transition. But Jordan Matthews has clearly put in the reps in the weight room, and he's carrying a lot of upper body strength. Now, generally, when receivers bulk up, they lose their foot speed and they don't separate. But Jordan Matthews is making big plays down the field like a receiver, but he's closer to 240 pounds now. Then when you do your research on who he is as a guy, he's a hardworking guy. He's a smart kid. He went to Vandy, who can learn the offense. And so I really like him. I'll say this, Dwelly is going to get a run for his money for that roster spot this summer. Dwelly is I don't think they both make it. I think it's Jordan Matthews or Dwelly. They're both receiving tight ends. Iron sharpens iron, as they say, right? I mean, those guys are going to compete against each other for that spot.
Yeah. I think that'd be huge. I've got a real quick story I've got to get to because I'm loving this Cheddarhead guy. He's a Packers fan. He said earlier, Fred Warner still gives me nightmares. And then he said, please tell him to stop haunting me. And then he said, I'll sacrifice my third-born son and my left kidney to see the Packers beat the 49ers in a playoff game. So real quick. So literally
hopefully he doesn't have a third-born son.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Cheddarhead, at least you get proper priorities.
Yeah. So anyway, last month I was working with Adam Carolla. They had an event in Santa Barbara. Everyone, please collectively give me an eye roll. I understand it, and I was kind of uncomfortable there myself. I was at a event at the Ronald Reagan Museum with just a bunch of freaking like rich ass
in Santa Barbara, or is that
like 8-year-old white people, and who's he actor, not Kevin Costner, other guy who kind of looks like Kevin Costner. He's in also that one baseball movie, The Rookie.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid was there. Dennis Quaid was like premiering.
That's a good poll, by the way.
That was a good poll.
Thank you.
He's premiering like a trailer for like his depiction of Ronald Reagan in an upcoming Reagan biography. Not all this to say, it was a room of stuffy old white people. And I was like, what the hell I don't know how to talk to any of you. They're all in like ties. So I saw this guy who seemed like he was like kind of like a chatty guy, like he seemed like a guy who I could, just maybe chat with. I heard him talk a little sports.
Right.
So I wanted to, bring up, talk a little football. I heard him talking about the Packers. Clearly he's a Packers fan. So I struck up a conversation naturally. We just beat at the time we just beat the Packers. And I think it was right after we lost to the Rams. And I like went up to him and I was like, oh man, I'm sorry. I don't know what it, and then we were talking Rodgers and I was like, you think Rodgers do you even want Rodgers at this point? Like, and he's like, oh, come on. Of course I want Rodgers. Oh, I love Rodgers. Oh, all this stuff. He's like, my kids have only known, like these Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And I was like, yeah, but he's kind of a distraction. And then also, every time I told him this, I would have gotten muted. I said, every time he comes across the Niners in the playoffs, the guy's got poo-poo in his butt. I told that to him. Smash cut to a minute.
Uh-oh. There's very few things that get Rye muted. Rye works really hard, but poo-poo in the butt references, it's notable. And it's, it can't be a lengthy suspension, but you need to kind of draw the line there. Don't you think, Danny? The poop.
Yeah, absolutely. Too much visual thought images there.
Exactly. And there might be people eating. All right, we bring Rye back.
Okay. Just to get to the punchline, it was worth the mute. So all of a sudden, a smash cut to a minute later, guy walks on stage and starts speaking. Turns out he is the governor of Wisconsin.
Nice.
Yeah, the governor of Wisconsin. I'm like talking S about Aaron, and then I'm like,
now, who is the governor of Wisconsin? Scott something, isn't it?
Scott Walker used to be. I don't know if
it's Scott Walker.
Scott Walker.
He's been. Is he? I don't think he's there anymore.
It's good knowledge by me, by the way.
Wow. Yeah, those are some polls.
It's the governor, and I pulled the first name, Scott.
Wait. Remember Mercedes?
We got some. Okay. What time are we supposed to go on to the? What time did you schedule the chat on the other one?
Oh God,
4 a.m. It starts at 4:15 a.m.
I can get maybe some 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You were really energetic last night in the chat. I tuned in for a few minutes. I thought wasn't sure if you were sleeping during the chat.
I had a busy day, and then just the Giants. They just even talking about them got me tired.
And I was running just a 240p stream. Like, I think there was actually people in the chat genuinely asking who that was in the background, and it was the Steve Young statue.
Nice. Do we play that? Do we run the live stream or there we go. Wait, hold on a second. This one, MF donates $4.99. Does Brian Greasy know what he's doing? He played with Mike Shanahan and seems knowledgeable on Monday Night Football. Well, he was an NFL quarterback. So, he knows the position from having played it, but does he know how to coach it? We're going to find out. I think he's going to help Trey quite a bit, and probably Brock Purdy and Sudfeld. It's a young quarterback room, probably the youngest in the league.
Yeah, I think Sudfeld. I know you mentioned Purdy. You think he wins? I think Sudfeld. He's Sudfeld's a 6-year vet. I think he'll be the backup.
Well, it's funny. The money, if you follow the money, there's no doubt he should be the backup. But it's funny, all these people producing camp stats. Sudfeld was 11 for 11. Yeah, those passes were like, throwing, a pass from me to you right now. It's like, doop, these are not down the field kinds of passes. But I think Purdy's going to beat him out, to be honest.
How does that work, Larry? If they don't make the original 53, do they have to be put on waivers to get back onto the practice squad?
Yes, they have to go through the cut down, and then if I'm the Jets and I want to put you, Dan Coach Amelia, who's been cut by the Niners, on my 53-man, my 53-man roster takes precedent over their practice squad. Now, if I don't put you on the 53 and I put you on the practice squad, then other teams can poach you off of the practice squad if they're willing to put you on the 53.
There's no
the thing is, players have
you to protect, or is there?
Players have control, though. I mean, there's 63 people on your practice squad. If you start poaching people from teams' practice squads, you are likely to have teams then turn around and poach your guys. I'm not saying it's a gentleman's agreement, but it's not like, I think the player gets a choice. So like you go to camp with the Niners, you're learning their system, their language. It's almost like taking a foreign language in college, that kind of a course. So are you going to then at the end jump ship to a different team? Well, you might if you feel like there's an opportunity for you, but there's all kinds of guys who decline to be picked up for the active roster to stay on somebody's practice squad because they believe in the long range view of it. So there's different ways to look at it. There's other guys that will just literally jump around the league from team to team to team, looking for opportunities to get on that 53 right now.
I'm imagining Farhan being the GM of a team and just waiting for cut day. I'm going to poach everybody's practice squad guys. And
are you kidding me? He would live off the practice squad. He would just be constantly on the practice squad. I found a guy on the Chargers practice squad. I'm moving. I mean, he'd be constant maneuvers, for sure. How long do you want to go here before we jump into the Giant podcast or the Giant live stream?
I think we should, out of respect.
You got guys waiting over there.
But it's a bummer. We got these great new guys like Chatterhead, who's just mixing it up and seems to just be mixing swimmingly with the Krueg Show regulars. Seems like a great guy, great fan. Respect.
Well, everybody who's on this one here.
Yes.
Just jump on over to the next one, and we'll still be talking Niners. Yeah. So
it kind of reminded me in college when somebody would walk in holding the tap and say, "Hey guys, the keg's dry, but we're going to Joyce's down the street. Here's the address. Everybody follow us. The keg's dry, but she's got a pony keg over there, and she's going to stop by and get another one. So we're moving the party to Joyce's down the street. Keg's dry. Just letting you guys know." You're all invited. Follow us down there. And then, then of course there'd be one guy, you'd be like, "Hey, and you guys aren't invited. You got to stay here." So we'll do that. What we'll do is Pud Fatty, Matthew Mears, Cheddarhead, Jay Tan, all you guys, Carlo P, Bomber T, Sean Proctor, GTC Reels has been with us since literally opening night.
Al Ramos, Elliot's brother,
James Foster, all these guys, Sal, Dusty Gold, not of course MF, Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, all you guys.
Jay Stamps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna go. We're gonna go to our live stream, and it says it's Giants, and we all did just watch the Giants game. We'll talk Giants over there, but we're also going to continue talking Niners because we got going on the Niners live stream a little bit late. So we'll do this. We'll play our out right here, and join us in 2 minutes on the Krueg Show for another live stream. This time we'll mix in Giants baseball and 49er football. Join us next. What's that?
We'll be in a different studio.
Different background. Danny will have a different hat, a different shirt, and different dogs. It's all straight ahead.
Never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you asked for. Careful, whatever you bring me getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. We ain't never fall back.